We got Ben calling in from Alabama, and I think, Ben, we'll take you as our last caller tonight. So what do you got for us?
All right, thanks. Well, I was listening to one of the earlier calls, and I know he was asking a lot about like which idea has more explanatory power.
Mm-hmm.
And something I think a lot about is that basically my epistemology that I use for everything is the same one I use on my day job, which is I need an idea that predicts cause and effect with some reliability so I can cause the effects that I want.
Right.
Sure.
And
yeah.
Yeah. So it's like if I hear an idea that does not make any predictions, I'm not going to call it true. If an idea makes predictions but fails, then I'm going to call it false. And, it has to actually make some predictions that come true with some reliability. And, you test via the scientific method and then you hand it off to other people to use the ideas. And it's like, I hear so many people talk about the things they believe are true and they don't even try to like predict cause and effect.
Yeah. And I'm not going to put words into a previous caller, Josh's mouth, right? But I can imagine Josh or folks in maybe a similar camp making the case, well, doesn't that mean you're relying on materialism? Doesn't that mean you're relying on science? You have some sort of grounding epistemology. And so I would say if you can find something better, that would be great. But I agree with you, Ben. It seems that parsimony in particular, right, can provide more reliable results. And that's really what we need if we're going to have a grounded system of anything, of understanding. And is that going to come with flaws? Is that going to come with hindrances? Yes. But, as long as we're picking and choosing, I don't know what's going to work better. Right, John? What do you think?
Right. There's a great quote out there that if every science book ever written was to be erased and every religious book ever written was to be erased and we left it for like 100, 200 years and then went back to explain how things came to be, the science textbooks would almost word for word be what came back. So that's probably the best way to go. If you're just making up explanations for X, Y, and Z, then the new religious texts would be wildly different. But because we have these reliable, ways to test things, we would rediscover that in 200 years, 300 years, and we would get the same answers because we'd be testing things in the exact same way. So I'm always a big fan of, cause and effect. And, if we can prove this, then this is at the moment likely the best explanation we have until something better comes up.
Yeah, that's a really interesting. That's a really interesting thought experiment. It reminded me that I think Newton and Leibniz both came up with calculus at about the same time with, I think, totally different notation, but it was basically the same thing. Right. And and it occurs to me, everyone's got a day job. Well, most people. Everyone's got something productive they need to do during the day, and they want it to actually happen. So there is some critical thinking involved with everybody, no matter how many crazy ideas they believe. The ones that actually immediately matter to them, they're going to have to use ideas that produce a reliable effect, or it just ain't going to work.
Yep. I agree. And this is, again, a criticism I have with the theist position, particularly the Christian theist position, because it just seems to be ad hoc. It just seems to be looking at things that don't make sense when we look at it through other lenses and saying, well, but if we maybe posit this, then maybe it works. And it's just, you can just do that forever and ever and ever and ever. And it doesn't produce satisfying results, in my opinion. It seems like there would be, if there was a God, there'd be easier ways to do some of this stuff, right? I don't know, make a message to the world that everybody can clearly understand. and not have to know whether it's a metaphor or not, or I don't
Right.
know. I mean, just spitballing, but
And if a God that created the universe existed, would it not know exactly what it would take to convince everybody of its existence and not
sure,
need?
if it cared.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. But in the
Which the
eyes
God
of
of
its
the Bible
believers,
seemed to do, to be clear.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and its believers want folks to know. So surely if that being existed, it would know exactly what words these believers would need to say and would tell them so that everybody would be, there's
Yeah.
so much that a being could do and just at the moment doesn't seem to. So why should we bother?
Why would a God of the universe make its origin story known to man be believable through like locality? Like why would an anthropologist be able to look at that and trace it on like a geographic level
Right.
rather than something else? Like, why aren't Aborigines talking about how Jesus saved them? We had to tell them that, right? As Christians. I don't know. It seems to be more plausible that these ideas came from people and not from God. And it's not just Christianity. I'm not trying to pick on that. Just it seems to be that way for all world religions. So
Yeah, they had to use like Archimedean principles of buoyancy to create boats in order to bring Christianity to Australia.
Sure. Yeah. No, definitely. So there you go, Ben. We're probably on the same page there. Anything else you want to add before we let you go tonight?
Yeah. There's like one thing that builds on that. Because like my job involves making simulations. And one thing occurred to me, like, when people talk about like prophecies and predicting the future, or, as you were saying, like what would a God should know, what would convince anybody that they're real. And when in order to predict the future, what I do is I create a little simulation of a little slice of reality and I play it out to see what happens. And so it's like, if you actually wanted to have prophecies and predict the future of our universe, I think you'd have to be a time traveler. You have to actually watch what happened and then go back and say, this is going to happen.
Yeah.
Because that's what I do.
Sure. Yeah. And part of this too is I'm very privileged myself, Ben. I had a college education. I was able to have the free time to think about this stuff and learn about this stuff. Not as much these days working full time, but I at least there was a time where I was able to do that. Not everybody has that. There's a lot of systems involved that I think influence our belief. We sometimes as atheists, I think we make the mistake that our beliefs are completely the result of our personal responsibilities, but I don't think that that's necessarily always the case. Folks that have high stress lives are going to have the beliefs that give them comfort and probably rely on that more than I would need to, right? So, there's a lot of things happening here, but because you have a job where you critically think every day, you're able to think about that and see how you need these methods, and it's going to be more important for your daily life, whereas somebody else may not rely on that as much and therefore may not think about it as much. So I guess I'm just making that point to see how differently people can view this, right?
Yeah, I mean, and I guess like and I absolutely know people have different backgrounds, and my viewpoint, I've pretty much been mostly skeptical and atheist my whole life. I did have a brief love affair with cryptozoology when I was a child, but
hell yeah, like we all do.
Great.
Yeah.
The History Channel did a number on us. I'm just saying,
Yeah, the Hitler Channel.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, but I think the message I would hope people would hear is that it's those little things in your life where you need something to happen and you need to know how to make it happen, and that's truth. That a giant pile of Jordan Peterson-esque words isn't going to make something true.
Yeah.
The truth is, can you use that idea to make something happen. And we all do that in some way or another.
Amen, Ben. Amen to that. I like it. Thanks so much for calling. I'm going to go ahead and let you go.
Yeah.
But
Feel free to join
appreciate
us in the after show, though, Ben.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Come and hang out.
Come and hang out with us if you want. We'd love to talk to you more then.